This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. When you visit the doctor, you probably hand over your insurance, your ID, and contact details. It's just one of the many places that has your personal info. And if any of them accidentally expose it, you could be at risk for identity theft. LifeLock monitors millions of data points a second. If you become a victim, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year at lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Comcast is committed to bringing access to the internet to all Americans, including rural communities across the country, like Sussex County, Delaware.
We were being left behind. Everybody around us seemed to have internet, but we did not. High-speed internet is one of those good things that we needed to help us move our farming, our small businesses, our recreation forward.
Learn more about how we're bringing our next-generation network to more people across the country at comcastcorporation.com/investment in America.
Heads up at the top. There's a little profanity in this episode. Hasan Piker is a talker. When I say that, I mean he spends up to 8 hours a day in front of a microphone and a camera, streaming on Twitch. He talks so much that he doesn't actually remember what he was talking about last week when he started to hear that Charlie Kirk had been shot.
No, I at first I didn't believe it. People were tweeting that he had been shot, and I even scolded some of my chatters saying, like, guys, this is hearsay on Twitter.
Watching Hasan stream is a little like watching a cable news commentator who is simultaneously an air traffic controller. He's got a whole lot of feeds up at once. His audience can message each other and him in real time. It feels like he's inhaling the entire internet and spitting it back out with his own particular spin. His spin is unapologetically leftist, which made him an epistemological rival of Kirk's. On Wednesday, Hasan told his viewers if the rumors about Charlie Kirk's shooting were true, there had to be video, which is when they started sending links. First, from a distance, crowds running. Then, much closer.
And then last but not least, someone from the crowd had also filmed it as well, up close, from like about 10 to 20 feet away.
Yeah, there's video of you just like gobsmacked, like you have your glasses on your head and like your hands over your face because you're like, oh. And I remember that feeling because when you watch that video, that's the only reaction you can have, which is like, holy shit.
Yeah, it's not something that I expected to see, and I always thought that I myself was desensitized to seeing so much violence in my coverage and the things that I talk about, atrocities in Gaza that are unfolding on a daily basis. But I think like being close to the situation, like my proximity to the situation, being that this was a person that I knew. A person that I had also debated. It just, all of your fears as a political commentator become real in that moment when you see that.
Hasan was supposed to debate Charlie Kirk in person at Dartmouth College next week. Now, travel, public speaking, it all feels different.
After the watching the horrifying, gruesome incident, my mind started racing about the possibilities of what may come.
Yeah, I mean, you kept saying America's fucked.
Yeah.
A few days later, do you still think America's fucked?
Yes, I do. But I thought that before this moment as well. It was just another instance that solidified the sentiment that I was expressing.
But was there something special about Charlie Kirk being attacked that made you think, and so publicly on camera, this is particularly bad?
It stems from the fact that this is a person that I knew. I receive a lot of death threats throughout my career, millions of them. I've gotten credible ones and ridiculous ones. as time passed, it became more of just a constant thing that happens. It just happens. There's not really anything you can do about it. Political violence, it spells societal collapse and disorder. So I was just terrified of what the future for America was to hold.
Today on the show, why one of Charlie Kirk's contemporaries is only beginning to grapple with his death. I'm Mary Harris. You're listening to What Next? Stick around. This episode is brought to you by Home Chef. With summer winding down and the chaos of back-to-school season in full effect, are your healthy eating habits slipping? You can skip the expensive takeout and simplify your routine with flavorful meals everyone's going to love with Home Chef. Home Chef has sent me a couple of their meal kits to try out, and I'm here to tell you what they sent was delicious, nutritious, and really, really easy. That's key this time of year when I'm running in 5 different directions. I've got meetings with teachers, I got to get kids to the orthodontist, and then at the end of it, somehow we have to feed everyone. Home Chef has everything you and your family needs for hassle-free delicious dinners. Over 30 options a week. They cater to a variety of dietary needs. Users of leading meal kits have rated Home Chef #1 in quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease. Whew, that's a lot. So, let Home Chef deliver fresh ingredients and chef-designed recipes conveniently to your doorstep to simplify your cooking experience. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering What Next listeners 50% off and free shipping for your first box, plus free dessert for life. Go to homechef.com/whatnext. That's homechef.com/whatnext for 50% off your first box and free dessert for life. homechef.com/whatnext. Must be an active subscriber to receive that free dessert. Decisions made in Washington can affect your portfolio every day. But what policy changes should investors be watching? Listen to Washington Wise, an original podcast for investors from Charles Schwab, to hear the stories making news in Washington right now. Host Mike Townsend, Charles Schwab's managing director for legislative and regulatory affairs, takes a nonpartisan look at the stories that matter most to investors, including policy initiatives for retirement savings, taxes and trade, inflation concerns, the Federal Reserve, and how regulatory developments can affect companies, sectors, and even the entire market. Mike and his guests offer their perspective on how policy changes could affect what you do with your portfolio. Download the latest episode and follow at schwab.com/WashingtonWise, or wherever you listen. When Charlie Kirk got murdered, he had a security detail of 10 people. So I asked Hasan Piker, who streams under the username Hasan Abi, if he has his own security. He said he didn't, even though he's had his own alarming moments out in public, like when earlier this year, Customs and Border Protection stopped Hasan at the airport and questioned him for 2 hours, even though he was born in New Jersey.
I just have a policy of not letting fear dictate my life, and I try to appear in public without any sort of security to the best of my ability. I mean, that might change in the future now, but I don't just do public events and speaking engagements. I speak at rallies and whatnot, but I also do protest coverage, right? Like I don't stand behind the police line. I'm in front of the police line, and I've been shot at and maced and tear gassed
By the police.
Yeah, exactly. Rubber bullets fly by my head in very kinetic and chaotic environments. This changes a little bit. This changes that dynamic a little bit, but it's like I said, it's just something that it's something that I know is a ever-present threat.
You mentioned how you were set to debate Charlie Kirk at Dartmouth a little later this month, and I know you've known him for years. Did you feel like you knew him personally in addition to professionally?
No, I wouldn't say I knew him personally. We've only been around one another in very limited environments, never like a personal friendship or anything like that. He was very cordial with people that he debated, for sure. And I think that's seen as like, for a lot of civility fetishists, I think that's seen as like the ultimate thing. And that's why you're seeing a lot of like glowing profiles being written about Charlie right now, because this was a horrifying tragedy that requires people from every part of the political spectrum to try and actively bring the temperature down to the best of their ability, even though there are some in positions of power who are doing the exact opposite, like Donald Trump, who's used this tragedy to go after his political enemies or who he perceives as a real threat. But I think a lot of liberal institutions have reflected on Charlie Kirk's output as simply a political activist who always wanted to have open-minded conversations with people, and not a
Yeah, I would say they rate it as like a technical success, is how some people have processed it.
he was very successful. I think he was certainly very, very successful he was a shrewd political operative and very successful in that regard. Absolutely. And I think most of his success did come from TikTok later down the line. As someone who closely tracked his career, I noticed that the first time he was actually reaching real audiences of the youth was in the aftermath of his like big TikTok push and big TikTok initiative. He already had the infrastructure built in high schools and college campuses with Turning Point USA, but that had reached limited success, I would say, despite the endless amounts of money that it was getting from wealthy Republican institutional mega donors. But this big TikTok push, the Steven Crowder style change my mind debates that he was doing, or packaging as like simply trying to arrive at a truth by using the format of debate, even though I think it was just very successful Republican propaganda. That format actually did garner a lot of attention from Gen Z voters.
Well, now you see that format everywhere, right? You see Jubilee. Like, I'm sort of wondering, as someone who is prepared to go into debate with Charlie Kirk, would you say anyone won or lost the debates you had? Like, was that the point?
To a certain degree, yes. I think I'm not the biggest fan of the debate format in general, because I think there's a lot of limitations to it in terms of one, arriving at the truth, and two, in terms of like truly changing people's minds. But it can be a good starting point for a lot of people. I have this opinion that 40% on either side already have their minds made up. They just want to see their champion, ritualistically humiliate their opponent and the opponent's ideology. But there's 20% in the middle, 10 and 10 on either side, that are in the margins that can be convinced, right? And I think debates are successful for that, to get that 20% on your side. And they're also successful in terms of like teaching your side the appropriate talking points.
So it's a modeling kind of thing.
Exactly. And I think the structure of debate, especially like quippy one-liners, messaging discipline, and a litany of logically fallacious arguments that you present, that you rationalize in that very moment, make it much easier for, I think, Republicans to dominate in this sphere, which is why it's not an accident that.
I mean, some have said this debating format, it incentivizes like just flagrant lying. Like nothing is getting solved in the debate. It's just that people are owning each other, whether they're right or wrong.
But it can be entertaining. And like I said, it's entertaining and it's galvanizing. And I think that an earnest back and forth, a real back and forth, especially with a skilled operator, a skilled orator that is championing this cause, can be an eye-opening moment for many.
I mean, Ezra Klein at the New York Times wrote this op-ed basically saying Charlie Kirk was doing politics the right way. I can't really tell whether you'd agree with that.
I don't.
Or whether, yeah.
I don't. And the reason why I don't is because, again, this goes back to, I think, a blind side that many liberals have, especially institutional liberals have. And I think that the broader readership of the New York Times is not even in agreement with Ezra Klein on this one, because I saw some of the comments, and these guys are not like, Hasanabi heads or radical leftists or anything. These are the New York Times readership, right? Like, and they were saying, I think it's ridiculous to say that Charlie Kirk's, Charlie, like only focusing on the technical side of Charlie Kirk's machine of political commentary is a disservice to the readership, because I think ultimately what matters most is his political output, and his political output as a political commentator was not moderate at all. I mean, he was using this vast network.
Can you think about things that Charlie Kirk advocated for, policies, statements he made, things that you think maybe haven't been highlighted by mainstream media in the wake of his death?
A lot of anti-Black sentiment, anti-Brown sentiment, a lot of anti-immigrant sentiment has not been talked about at all. These are not issues that Charlie shied away from, or he debated those positions pretty vociferously, like openly. This is what he did.
Well, he firmly believed in things like great replacement theory.
Yes, anti-Islam, of course, as well. He implied that Zohran Mamdani and people like Zohran Mamdani, Muslims, were responsible for 9/11, and then it was a real danger that now Zohran was going to potentially become the mayor of a city that experienced 9/11. I mean, this is just transparent bigotry, no matter which way you cut it.
He rejected feminism too. I mean, as a woman,
Yes.
like
Some of the things that he has said are so gruesome that it feels like it feels bad taste to just like bring up in the immediate aftermath of his horrifying death. But I mean, he was asked straight up in a debate on Jubilee whether or not, if his 10-year-old daughter was raped, if he would force her to carry that pregnancy to term. And he said, yes, he would. That is a horrifying worldview to have. It's one that I find morally repugnant. And I think many other people would also agree with that, including Republicans, as a matter of fact.
Although it was interesting, I was talking to my 17-year-old son last night, who was like, I don't think that actually Charlie Kirk was that extreme. I think that's
terrifying.
Honestly, that says more to me about where the Republican Party has gone than Charlie Kirk.
But that's what I mean. And I think it's an abdication of duty from especially like these reputable establishment press operations and newsrooms to leave that up to the readership, or not even leave that up to the readership, but like to basically omit key details. Perhaps the most consequential aspect of Charlie Kirk as a political force is his commentary.
After the break, Hasan takes us inside the online spaces he thinks are creating killers, like the man who shot Charlie Kirk. This episode is brought to you by Quince. Fall is about to be in full swing, and that means it's the perfect time to refresh your wardrobe if you, like me, were raised on the idea that you need a back-to-school outfit. If you've got a little extra cash and you're looking for a place to spend it, let me recommend Quince, because Quince makes it easy to look polished, stay warm, and save big without compromising on quality. Quince has sent me a few of their items to try out: button-down shirts, a nice pair of linen pants. I've been really satisfied with what they sent. Returning stuff was really easy, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they've got on tap for fall. I know that they have 100% Mongolian cashmere from $50, washable silk tops and skirts, perfectly tailored denim, and all of this is at prices that feel pretty great. By partnering directly with top-tier factories, Quince cuts out the middleman to deliver luxury quality pieces to you at half the price of similar brands. It's the kind of wardrobe upgrade that feels smart, stylish, and effortless. So keep it classic and cozy this fall with long-lasting staples from Quince. Go to quince.com/whatnext for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That is QUINCE.com/whatnext to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/whatnext. This episode is brought to you by Saks Fifth Avenue. With the weather getting cooler, if you're like me, you're looking around for a couple of new items for your wardrobe, like a new sweater, some cute new kicks. And Saks Fifth Avenue makes it easy to get creative with your personal style and find the best arrivals for fall. I went over to sex.com to check out what they've got on tap. And I got to say, what I love about clicking around their website is that every piece looks special, one of a kind, as if you'd walk into the office or a party and instantly grab everyone's attention. All the big brands are there, stuff like Alice and Olivia, you know, the young and trendy stuff. I love that I can see the care in every piece Saks has chosen for their fall collections. Each dress or pant or shoe feels a little bit elevated. So if you want shopping to be fun and easy, head over to Saks Fifth Avenue for inspiring ways to elevate your personal style every day.
This episode is brought to you by Planned Parenthood Federation of America. The state of reproductive rights might feel bleak, but the fight isn't over. At Planned Parenthood, they're holding the line, no matter what. Whether it's birth control, wellness exams, abortion access, cancer screenings, gender-affirming care, or expanded telehealth, Planned Parenthood continues to provide care, even now. Some lawmakers are trying to end abortion access, slash funding people rely on for care, and shut down Planned Parenthood health centers. These attacks only deepen the healthcare crisis they created, putting millions at risk. But here's the truth. Planned Parenthood has been there for over a century because of supporters like you. Planned Parenthood believes everyone should have the freedom to make decisions about their own bodies, no matter what. And that's something worth fighting for. The future isn't something that just happens. It's something that can be shaped. Planned Parenthood needs you in this fight. Donate today to support Planned Parenthood at plannedparenthood.org/defend.
In the aftermath of last week's shooting, many on the far right pushed the narrative that Charlie Kirk's killer must have been from the political left. Before we even knew that Kirk had died, before there was even a suspect, South Carolina Representative Nancy Mace attributed the violence to some raging leftist lunatic. That's a quote. She told reporters on Capitol Hill, Democrats own what happened today. The truth about the shooter turned out to be murkier and weirder. Tyler Robinson, the alleged assailant, is 22 years old. He was registered to vote, but not with either of the two major parties. And he had etched 4 different bullet casings with phrases mostly known by video gamers and the extremely online. Were you surprised by who the alleged shooter turned out to be?
No, not at all. More often than not, it is a statistical likelihood that the shooter in the United States of America is going to be a straight white man with indecipherable politics. And that is all too common, I think. Even when we find out the background of like school shootings, especially in this past year and a half, has been there was a female school shooter, there was a black school shooter, as a matter of fact. But both of these school shooters still were radicalized in a network of Telegram channels that were far right neo-Nazi Telegram channels. The Order of Nine Angles is one of them. There's this like decentralized network of stochastic terror that is unfolding and is actually all around the world too. They've had numerous acts of terror in Turkey and in many other places, and they actually celebrate these like other white nationalist shooters.
This shooter was writing things on bullet casings too. And in the beginning, the rumors, which were wrong, were that it was having to do with quote unquote transgender ideology.
Yeah.
When you read about what was actually theoretically on these bullet casings, it was memes. It was incredibly online, references to video games. Did you recognize this stuff when you heard it, when you watched the press conference?
Yes, I did. I recognized all of the references as soon as I read them. One is a Helldivers code. Helldivers is a very famous shooting, very famous game online.
Does it tell you anything about the motivations here?
You know, the worst part about this is it doesn't. And even like Ciao Bella being written on one of the casings is like, under normal circumstances, that leads me to believe that this person is most likely a leftist because this is an international call for anti-fascism, right?
Right.
But from what I understand, the dynamic is unclear because not only the shooter's background and again, like I said, we still don't have enough information to put forth a significant psychographic profile of the shooter, because unfortunately a lot of people don't understand how these memes and things like that online work. They don't get it. Some things are cynically deployed.
Yeah, I mean, in our work Slack, someone was basically positing that, you know, this has evidence of being about, a kind of nihilistic, masculine gamer culture thing, which is like starting from the left-right frame may not even be the right framework to layer over this person and their ideology. I just don't know if you'd agree with that.
Um, I think, well, the reason why I don't fully agree with that is because like there is there is an increasing movement of ultra nihilistic, oftentimes still like esoteric neo-Nazi adjacent, so obviously far right instances of stochastic terror that are coming from some of these groups that I talked about, where they actively try to radicalize and groom very young people that have significant mental health complications into committing these atrocities, and they consider them to be like heroes. Right? This is a growing concern, and they operate within Roblox. They operate on Telegram channels. And I think we are woefully incompetent at dealing with this kind of internet radicalization.
And the one thing we do know is that this person had access to weapons because we've seen the photos, family photos of, kids with guns and gun assembly kits, and they seemed very threaded throughout the family culture.
Yeah. It's clear. I mean, this person, from what I understand, has been around guns since he was 8 years old, and that is certainly a interesting aspect of American culture. As someone who came here when I was 18, I could not understand that at all. I thought that was very strange, but that's certainly something that is very normal for a lot of people, both living in Utah, but just like all around the country as well. So,
yeah, I want to ask you one more thread of questioning, which is just, do you think there's someone on the right who's going to take up Charlie Kirk's mantle, this kind of debate me culture that he thrived in?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you want to participate in that? Like if someone
No.
else says, I'll debate you at Dartmouth?
Maybe it depends, but there are already people that are on the right salivating at the prospect of taking on that position. That is an absolute certainty. I've seen Ben Shapiro talk about how he's going to carry that mantle for Charlie almost immediately after Charlie's death. I've seen a far right neo-Nazi by the name of Nick Fuentes gain a lot of prominence in the aftermath of this. A lot of people on Twitter are now celebrating that, like, Nick Fuentes is going to be this new beacon, this new figure that will move the youth.
Would you debate Nick Fuentes?
I can't say, because the way that I bracket off people who are, people who have openly denied the Holocaust and things of that nature, and don't shy away from the moniker of fascism, is that not platforming them is probably the appropriate way to go. However, if their platform grows to such a size that they have, that they become like a real figure, a real figurehead of a movement, then that dynamic changes. That calculation changes a bit for me.
That seems to be the problem we've locked ourselves into.
Yeah.
Like, yes, it would be better to not platform people with these ideas, but when they have this much power, you have to engage with them, and then you're in a cycle.
No, absolutely. But I think it's, it's getting there, whether we agree with it or not. It does seem like that is, at least for the online wing, at least for the youth wing of the Republican Party, it does seem like a lot. It does seem like it's moving in that direction. And the reason why I say this is because, like, Charlie Kirk, I think, would not be considered a moderate person 10 years ago.
No.
Like, their position on, saying the Civil Rights Act was a mistake, or talking openly about how they would be fearful of a black pilot, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to like a white one. Like, these are things that I think were outside of the permission structure for regular mainstream conservatives and conservatism in general. They might have believed it, but they just wouldn't entertain it.
Or say it out loud.
They wouldn't say it out loud. And I think now we've moved into that space where a lot of mainstream conservatives are saying the quiet part out loud, which of course normalizes even more extreme rhetoric on that side.
I mean, it sounds like you're saying Charlie Kirk was killed, but Charlie Kirkism is alive and well.
Well, the spirit of contemporary conservatism is still very much in action. So the project that Charlie Kirk played a formative role in is still continuing, yes.
Before we got off the line, I asked Hasan to do one more thing for me. Tell me what he would have said to Charlie Kirk if they had gotten the chance to debate next week.
I think I was just very ready to point out the inconsistencies with the administration that he most associates himself with, the Trump administration. And there are so many. Refusing to address the affordability crisis, and ruining the economy further with a tariffs regime, and also these mass deportations. First and foremost, I think it's a horrifying incident in general. It's very violent in general for these communities. I was going to talk about all of that, but then also about the inconsistencies of having an America First position that sometimes seemingly puts Israel first, and even American foreign policy at odds.
Thought you could win the debate. I can hear you.
Oh, I mean, yes, for sure.
Are you still going to Dartmouth? Like, you're going to just talk yourself?
I don't know what's going to happen with Dartmouth. I have no idea. I assume that they're probably going to cancel it.
For safety reasons.
Yeah, it's a very chaotic environment at the moment, and I am getting a lot of death threats, more than usual.
Hasan, I'm really grateful for your time, and you spent extra time with me. I'm grateful.
Thank you for having me.
Hasan Piker is a Twitch streamer and left-wing political commentator. And that's our show. What Next is produced by Elena Schwartz, Rob Gunther, Anna Phillips, and Madeline Ducharme. Paige Osburn is the senior supervising producer of What Next and What Next TBD. Mia Lobel is the head of audio here at Slate. Ben Richmond is our senior director of podcast operations. And I'm Mary Harris. Go track me down on Blue Sky. Say hey, I'm at Mary Harris. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you back here next time. Decisions made in Washington can affect your portfolio every day. But what policy changes should investors be watching? Washington Wise is an original podcast from Charles Schwab that unpacks the stories making news in Washington right now and how they may affect your finances and portfolio. Listen at schwab.com/WashingtonWise.
Hi, I'm Josh Levine. My podcast, The Queen, tells the story of Linda Taylor. She was a con artist, a kidnapper, and maybe even a murderer. She was also given the title the Welfare Queen, and her story was used by Ronald Reagan to justify slashing aid to the poor. Now, it's time to hear her real story. Over the course of 4 episodes, you'll find out what was done to Linda Taylor, what she did to others, and what was done in her name.
The great lesson of this, for me, is that people will come to their own conclusions based on what their prejudices are.
Subscribe to The Queen on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening right now.